Heidi Voigt with us this morning. Great to see you again, young lady.
Good to see you.
Well, since Heidi is trusting me to take care of her phone, I got to stop turning the stupid thing off. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, we're going to talk about one of my favorite things today, and that is ham sandwiches.
Nothing beats a ham sandwich.
Heidi, what do ham sandwiches have to do with real estate?
Well, I'm a little bit older than a lot of people that are in this business, and I've got little idiosyncrasies of phrases that I use. And one of the things I talk to people about from the perspective of real estate and being a ham sandwich is it's really the person that is the ham in the sandwich when you're doing a real estate transaction, and that would be a seller that has a buyer that's buying their home, has to close on it, buys their home, and then they're turning around to buy another one. So it's a tier of 3 transactions, and the person in the middle needs a lot of guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I think of when I look back on the houses that my wife and I have bought and sold and all of that, again, the relationship with the realtor makes it so much easier. And you guys really kind of focus on that at VoigtJohnson.
Yeah, well, we do. And in the coaching process, if you call it that, or the sitting down with people and explaining how that process works is essential, because you can't just go into it with the mindset that our market is the same as it was. And that's what people will always do. They'll go, well, my neighbor did this.
Yeah.
Well,
and rates are only 3%.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And so the conditions of the market, whereas somebody could say, oh, I see this house and I'm going to buy it and then I'll wait to put my house on the market, that has gone away. Not completely, but the majority of buyers cannot do that. So what we end up with is a more traditional real estate market where one of the people in the train are going to be the ham in the sandwich.
Sure.
And they just have to be prepared for the risks that come along with that, and then the planning that it takes in order to make that successful move.
Is that where we are right now, more normal after experiencing the craziness?
I definitely think so, and you have to actually explain to people that it's the norm, not the exception.
How do you do that? How do you get that point across? Because that can be tough.
Well, I think you talk to people about statistics, and that's what I go back to, is just say, statistically, people were able to do this financially one way because the markets were there, and what we need to do is look at our buyer pool. So I visited with a couple the other day, and we were actually talking about open houses, and they have an upper end home, and I just said, there's a lot of people that don't do open houses. They don't think that it's a thing to do. And I think that it's very, very valuable, even if you are in an upper end range, because in this marketplace, there are people that might not know they're moving until they see your home.
We talked about that last week.
Yeah. And so if they see your home and they're showing up at an open house, and then it creates that conversation. Well, then that conversation creates, well, if they're buying my house and they have a house to sell, what does that look like? And so I always just explain to them, we're not necessarily going to probably take a offer contingent on the sale of the home in the first couple weeks, because we want to see if there's that person that does not have that contingency.
Right.
But statistically, you might end up in that situation because that's what your buyer pool is. And the higher you go up in price, the more likely that is who your buyer pool is.
And again, we talked about the fact that, oh my gosh, this is where I want to be. It's my next home.
Yes, yeah,
right?
Exactly. And so if somebody finds your home due to some great exposure through marketing and open houses, and they say, this is where I'm, going to love where I live right here, well, then we need to put those pieces of the puzzle together in order for that to happen.
When people don't even know that trigger is out there, what a wonderful thing to have them walk in the house, their eyes open up wide, and they go, I didn't even know I wanted this house, but I do.
Yes, exactly. So, and from a bigger picture, I've always done open houses.
Sure.
I like people. I like to educate people. It's a good platform to give sellers exposure. But at the end of the day, having those marketing events, it exposes the property on a different level because it's advertised different. But it really gets the juice of the market flowing in the area, and people start getting into the marketplace. So I might not even benefit from whoever walks through. My seller might not end up benefiting from who walks through, but the marketplace gets going. Sure. And something else sells over here, which creates that trickle up into their home. So
Yep.
you can't even put a finger on the value of creating excitement.
I'll tell you, in my opinion, the most important thing, and I mentioned this when Brandon Johnson and I were talking about, the relationships that you have with your realtor can make or break you when it comes down to needing or wanting to move up.
Well, I 100% agree with that. And we had an event last night where I ran into somebody, and I hadn't really seen him since he bought his home, but we stay in touch. And
Sure.
and he remembered all the details of how they won. Like, he remembered exactly what I did and how fast I moved and what the responses were, so that they could win what they wanted.
Sure.
And I don't remember that, but he does.
Okay, now we at the beginning of our conversation, we talked about, not having to sell your home. Well, suddenly you have to sell your home now in order to buy the next one. How do we get ourselves in the position of not having to sell our home to move up to the next one? Are there some things, do you have any advice for us?
Well, I mean, I think it's it's going to depend on a lot of factors, but mostly it's math, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so
paying down your mortgage?
Yeah. Do you have a mortgage that is low enough where maybe you could bridge the gap and do some of those things? But I think the message here right now, and it goes back to the interest rates went up.
Sure.
We're going to quit talking about the interest rates eventually because
Yeah.
they are what they are. And it comes down to, what can you afford to do?
Pay off your debt, first of all.
Correct.
All this other stuff that's out there, because then you can apply that money that you were paying for a car or whatever to your house.
Correct.
Buying all of that, that's how you do it.
Yeah, building that equity is
Right.
paramount in having wealth in your home and wealth in your life. But there are some practicalities. If you are somebody that has bought a home to get out of an apartment and the house has a lot of work, and you're looking at, gosh, we're going to have to do $16,000 worth of stuff in the next 2 years if we're going to stay here. But you could take that same $16,000 you have saved and buy something where you're not going to have to do those things.
Right.
Sometimes that makes as much sense as anything, right?
Yes.
So you have to weigh those things out, and that's some of the things that we help people navigate.
That and knowing what those options even are. Heidi, how do we work with you at Voigt Johnson?
Well, you can call us anytime at 320-774-2400 or visit us at VoigtJohnson.com. Great agents on our website to tap into.
Heidi, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.